we will get to now is Fareed Zakaria, who talked to Aryeh Neier, a giant in the world of human rights, who literally is a Holocaust survivor.
So when you say in this New York Review of Books piece that you have concluded that Israel is guilty of attempting genocide.
Yes.
I can't believe that Fareed Zakaria, a brown guy, has another Hamas supporter on his channel. CNN basically also overtaken by Hamas. Classic Hamas supporter, dude. Really up, you know? You're telling me that he is a Holocaust survivor?
But I was disturbed by some of the actions of Israel, by the use of very large weapons, 2,000-pound bombs, which are utterly inappropriate in a crowded urban area. A bomb like that can kill somebody 2 football fields away, and using bombs like that was inappropriate in the context of Gaza. But still, I didn't think that Israel was engaged in genocide just because of the effort to retaliate against Hamas, even though I thought Israel went far overboard in the way of its retaliation.
I don't care how long it took for him to arrive at this conclusion, okay? You need to understand something very important. It doesn't matter. Don't say I do. Shut up. It's good. It's good for someone like this to be able to change their minds. What are you talking about? It's incredibly important for someone like this to change their minds. What the are we talking about? What are you doing? Are you gatekeeping like people expressing anti-genocidal sentiment? What the is wrong with chatters, bro? This literally is not about like being a hipster, okay?
Defense Minister Gallant, he says, I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals and we act accordingly. But that over time, they did start letting food and fuel in, and they have not, there might have been a period where they said and did things like that, but that was brief and it has ended.
Yeah, Fareed Zakaria is a piece of shit, by the way. You know how I said like, oh, sometimes journalists will do this thing where they like ask a leading question or ask a question that seems like crazy, specifically to draw out a response from the person that they're interviewing? I wouldn't say the same thing for Fareed. I think he is a piece of
inadequate to deal with the 2 million, more than 2 million people who live in Gaza. And the USAID administrator, Samantha Power, testified before Congress that famine had set in Gaza. The head of the UN World Food Program has said that full-blown famine.
That's Cindy McCain, by the way. Also, I told you that like all of this stuff holistically works in one direction, which is to apply additional pressure on the state of Israel. Every little step in the right direction plays a major role in many instances in ways that you can't even comprehend. Very important to consider. Like this interview being aired on CNN, unheard of, unimaginable. That guy personally didn't even think Israel was doing a genocide. His organization that he started has called Israel an apartheid state since 2021. You understand? And he still on October 7th was like, no, Israel has a right to defend itself. How did he arrive at this conclusion? How did he have a change of mind? This is important to examine. This is important to understand.
Prime Minister Netanyahu says that this prosecutor is anti-Semitic and is feeding anti-Semitism.
You know, the use of the term anti-Semitism to attack those who criticize Israeli policies degrades the concept of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism has been a great scourge.
I want all of my psychotic naysayers to basically tell exactly the same that they've been telling me to this guy who is saying literally verbatim the things I've been saying since October 7, mind you. What's the problem? Is it because I'm the one who said it and your favorite content creator despises me? Is that what it is? Is it because I was right too early? If you said this 5 years ago, you'd be called a Nazi. That's interesting that you're saying that because I did say this 5 years ago. I said this 10 years ago too. You can go and find old videos of me saying exactly the same. People have been saying that I've been anti-Semitic for never to this degree, but people were saying that even back then because it's always been the same anger and the same response.
Israeli government from being held to the same standards that other governments have to be held to around the world. The Israeli government has been very comfortable with certain anti-Semites. Prime Minister Netanyahu, for example, has cultivated a relationship with Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, and I think it's appropriate to consider Orban.
Youngest HasanAbi head on Fareed Zakaria. We should do a compilation of my takes side by side with this. Bro, this is literally verbatim.
The Israeli government has been very comfortable with certain anti-Semites. Prime Minister Netanyahu, for example, has cultivated a relationship with Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, and I think it's appropriate to consider Orban an anti-Semite.
This notion that Jews are responsible as these shadowy, wealthy puppeteers who are orchestrating white genocide behind closed doors in an effort to take away power from the white people is literally fascist propaganda. And it is also, coincidentally, the white nativist immigration policy justification by the Republican Party. And yet no one talks about it. That is insane to me. It is insane to me. It is so obvious. It is almost as obvious and as flagrantly, as hypocritical as Netanyahu shaking the hands of Viktor Orban, a gross anti-Semite and another fascist, or aligning himself with Jair Bolsonaro. These don't care about the Jews in their country. They're just fascists. They don't give a about Jews. They just want a place that they can send the Jews back to. So they're like, fine, have your ethno-state away from me. Go kill all the Muslims. And Netanyahu knows this. And that is precisely why he's like, I don't give a shit. Imagine being buddy-buddy with a guy like Viktor Orban, okay? And shaking that motherfucker's hand. And then turning around and speaking on behalf of anti-Semitism by conflating any valid criticism against the violent acts that the Israeli state has taken as gross and vile and anti-Semitic. What a insane world we live in, dude. What a insane world we live in, dude.
Use of the term anti-Semitism to attack those who criticize Israeli policies degrades the concept of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism has been a great scourge, but it doesn't insulate the Israeli government from being held to the same standards that other governments have to be held to around the world.
Assuming all Jews are Zionists is actually anti-Semitic, despite the fact that, unironically, the ADL and other organizations that are Zionist will turn around and be like, a criticism of Israel could be, in many circumstances, the criticism of the Israeli state is anti-Semitic, while it is straight up anti-Semitic to say that like all Jews care about Israel in the same way and are Zionists. That's anti-Semitic, which it actually is. But the inverse of that is routinely done by those who claim to care about anti-Semitism.
What changed my mind was that over a period of time, Israel has obstructed the delivery of humanitarian assistance to Gaza. And those who have been most severely victimized are not the members of Hamas. Men with guns ordinarily find a way to get food and to get fed. But it is young children who are most severely damaged by malnutrition and who will either starve to death, or if they survive, they will be diminished for the rest of their lives, diminished physically and psychologically by the severe malnutrition they are enduring as children. And I thought that severe obstruction of the delivery of humanitarian assistance amounted to genocide.
Israel has lost all of those people, okay? Israel has completely lost those people. And that's because they keep doing this. And they do it so much that even some of the stuff that gets filtered through the mainstream media ends up frustrating people. When it comes to Israel-Palestine, there's a lot of misinformation because many people trust mainstream sources, and the mainstream media has always been really bad on this, okay? Historically, they've just been bad on this issue because it is a State Department position that we have unconditional support for Israel. Even to this day, you will rarely ever, if at all, hear that Israel is an apartheid state. Out of any of the mainstream outlets, which one of them has openly stated that Israel is an apartheid? None. It's propaganda. It is a lie by omission. As a matter of fact, mainstream media will oftentimes go against that narrative and will create counter propaganda, counter narratives against that reality.
I was disturbed by some of the actions of Israel, by the use of very large weapons, 2,000-pound bombs, which are utterly inappropriate in a crowded urban area. A bomb like that can kill somebody 2 football fields away. And using bombs like that was inappropriate in the context of Gaza. Israel went far overboard in the way of its retaliation.
The one thing I have seen is a flattened Gaza. The one thing I have seen is tens of thousands of dead children, babies, premature born babies, women, children, elderly, men, an entire open-air prison flattened to the ground with the overarching goal of ending Hamas. And I thought they cleared northern Gaza, and it turns out Hamas is still there. The only thing Israel has to show for it, however, is like blowing up houses, controlled demolitions of buildings near the Gaza envelope inside the Gaza Strip. Maybe if Israel spent less time like murdering children and more time, I don't know, doing anything but murdering children, really. I can't even think of anything else that Israel should be doing in this circumstance. They would have had a better way of dealing with Hamas, considering that you have to deal with them politically. There is no violent military solution to Hamas, because Hamas in and of itself is simply a means of emancipation. It is a defensive posture against the apartheid regime and all of the violent mechanisms that maintain it.